Okay, that looks like it's broadcasting live. Let's check the map. Let's come back here. Looks like it's working. Test the voice, that looks good. Alright, so as the description says, this is the mission I flew tonight with my wingman, and we were flying from Gaziantep, where I've created like a base template with a bunch of objects to give the base a little bit of life. I also have an AWACS and 2 refuelers in the mission in order to be able to create other missions from that location with all these objects. It's all part of the template. And so yeah, we're going to go here. With the first plane, I'm going to target 2 MANPADS positions. We know where they are, so I've put the waypoints right on them, and at 0 altitude, you know, like on the ground, so that we can use that. I think in the F-16 it creates a SPI where your waypoint is, and the JSOWs that we're going to use to target these will just go to that location. So that's the first plane. And the second plane will attack a weapons plant right here where we know the position. And then there's a weapons storage building where there are parked trucks, but we don't really know where they are, so that's the idea there. We'll have to spot them on the targeting pod. Tonight I was hitting the AAA position and the munitions trucks that are here. These should be hidden, but I guess I hadn't done that part, but it's not really important for now. It's just we're going to fly from there to that area. It's a fairly long flight, about 100 miles, but easily doable. So let's go have fun with that. And so originally the mission was meant to be flown with EF-18s, like from Spain, but I put F-16s as well, and my wingman decided that we were going to fly F-16s tonight, so that's what I'll be using for this one. We'll just reproduce same thing. We might retry the same mission tomorrow with the Spanish F-18 Hornets. So as you can see, for Chevy, you can have Chevy the F-18 and Chevy the F-16. The 1-1 is the plane that I had, so I have the 831 and the 69 planes. I'm gonna go with the 69 plane first. That's the Dodge flight, because he's the one that was targeting the MANPADS. So we'll start with targeting that, and then we'll take 2-1 to go hit the buildings. Alright, so I'm going to hit fly just to show a little bit of the work I did here. There's not much in this particular spot where I am right now, but if you look further down the taxiway, I put a few vehicles here if we ever want to land, refuel, rearm. It's a good spot to do that. A little further down here, I've added this whole section there that we see where there's a vehicle going by, with barracks buildings, 2 helicopters, and reinforcement walls all around. I've put those shelters with the revetment walls that are built with the Mason objects. Let's see if I can get to that truck that was moving. That'll make it easier to show this section. This is the truck, but yeah, you can see the different revetments with the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 with those shelters. I put a bunch of objects to make the air base feel a little bit more alive. We've got some parked F-16s here on this side, And then you have some F-18s parked here, the Spanish F-18s with the Spanish C-130. And so yeah, that makes it look like a NATO base that's a little bit more alive. It's also Canadian Hercules, since often we fly with Canadian Hornets as well. So all that in here makes it quite interesting as a base. And of course I'm at the far end of the runway here, and I'm gonna be getting my plane ready for takeoff and to go on the mission. Other things that are interesting in the mission is the fact that I've got my plane here, but there's a KC-130 to refuel with the Hornets. There's an AWACS. The AWACS I think has those escorts with him, these F-16s. And there's a KC-135 which I tested earlier, just hooking up to it to refuel with the F-16. It works. So it's all part of the template, so it's kind of nice to have all these for the next time I want to build a mission. And if I look here at my plane, I've got the 2 fuel tanks, the 2 JSOWs, and some air-to-air ordnance. And that worked kind of nicely for me, like for the last mission, the amount of fuel. But one of my wingmen who was flying this plane, he had an extra fuel tank and he actually needed it. So depending on how good you are with the fuel management, it can be something that can come in handy. He usually doesn't use the targeting pod, but I do, so I'll keep it. And so I have this. The lights are okay. I'm gonna start this up. I'm not gonna use any ECM on this. I think I'll go directly to bypass. That's the way I like to use the countermeasures. Master arms on. I should probably do that in flight, but I'm gonna turn my targeting pod on this side. I'm gonna power on the weapons. And that's pretty much all you gotta do there. This is gonna time down, but by the time we get to the target area, it should be good to go. For air-to-air, sometimes I like to have my sidewinders in bore sight, especially the 9X, because it does a pretty good job at maneuvering. And so these I keep slave to the radar. And so yeah, I guess we'll get this thing ready to go. We'll start the nose wheel steering and taxi and take off. We can see from the little windsock there that there's a bit of wind. It's something to think about. There's a nice little helicopter patrolling. So let's get going. Dodge flight is going airborne. Usually once in flight, I put the lights on steady. Is that the moon right there? Yeah. Okay, watch where you're going. That's also an important part. Alright. So we're going to climb above the clouds, try to save a little bit of fuel on our way to the target. There we go. That's our plane. I think it's the 79th, the Tigers Squadron. What's interesting is I found that on the Spanish EF-18s that I put on the base, they have like a tiger logo on the tail, so I figured it'd be fun to have two Tiger squadrons working together from the same base. Let's call the AWACS.
Magic 1-1, Dodge 3-1, request bogey dope. Dodge 3-1, Magic 1-1, clean.
I'm going to try to climb to an altitude of 27,000 feet to help us save fuel a little bit on our way to the target. Because it's a morning mission, the brightness is not necessarily ideal on those screens. It thinks it's nighttime. We also have the sun more or less in our face, so it doesn't help. I'm gonna give it a little bit of throttle and afterburner to climb to altitude. Once we're there, we'll be saving a little bit of fuel. So. Passing Angels 26, we'll stabilize at 27. And we're reaching our first waypoint, so we'll switch to waypoint 2, which is our IP. And we went a little bit above 27,000, so we'll be able to gain a little bit of speed as we get to our altitude. Turn the altitude hold button on. Right here, pitch and altitude hold. At this point, I guess I can fence in, master arm, lights off. Confirm that the lights are off on the wings.
Magic 1-1, passing waypoint 1 at 27,000.
Can enjoy the scenery for a little bit. I am going to reduce my throttle to save on gas. As you can see here, I just halved the quantity of fuel I'm using. I've got a decent speed, good altitude. We're going to start diving near the IP to get to the targets. Just to get things prepared, I'm going to put the weapons here Usually I like to have my targeting pod on this side. Again, when we switch modes, the brightness gets lost, so there we go. Go. Talk to DAWACS again.
Magic 1-1, Dodge 3-1, request bogey dope. Dodge 3-1, Magic 1-1, clean.
Get you clean. Doesn't look like there's much here on our HSI except for friendlies and that SA3 really far, which shouldn't be a factor in our mission. Now we're getting close to our waypoint 2, and then we'll maybe dive a little bit to gain speed to fire at these 2 distant targets. Let's see for fun, difference in distance, 43 miles for those, okay. $10,000 of fuel. Just gonna switch the waypoint, switch air to ground. We're pretty much already within the zone where we can launch the weapons, but since these are gliding weapons, I prefer to get a bit closer. I will lose a few thousand feet, gain a bit of speed. Put the attitude hold at this point. Switch air to ground. Right now the target's in the cloud, so I can't see it. But I can prepare the camera. I'm gonna go white hot, so that once maybe we pass this cloud, we'll see a bit better. We can see some fires and smoke in the distance there. You can see there's been some activity in the town of Raqqa. We're going to hit a little bit past that, and there are some indications of fires here as well. Now, do we see anything here? Ah, yes, we see there's a tent, and we're well within the range of our weapons. Now, just for fun, I could just move this a little bit further, close to here, see if I can get a good lock point track on that. Gonna put my nose in the general direction of it, and then we'll master arm, pickle the weapon, and then switch to the next waypoint. Let's see on the next waypoint. Again, we have another tent, probably with same type of target. And we'll drop the weapon. Now we're pretty close. And we will go to Cat 1. Get out of this just to have a general idea where my waypoint 5 is. Start heading in that direction. And then we can have a little fun. Go back on our targeting pod. Oh, okay, it's just following the ground at this point. Let's go in the magic view. see what we can see. This one's there, the other one might be even closer, but yeah, they're gliding to their targets. Go back to the cockpit. So here I'm just making the plane do a small orbit. So you can see this one is maneuvering. How about the other one? It's doing a similar thing. I think the targets are close to the edge of the forest. So what I'll do is I'll switch to this view. We'll be able to see the target as the yeah, these weapons are falling, and there should be another one in that area there. And so we get messages that both targets were hit. So that means mission accomplished for this airplane. So we're going to head for waypoint 6. And we still have tons of fuel, so that's good. So just to avoid having to take the tanker, we're going to climb a little bit. Maybe head back towards like Angels 25 or so. Can still see some of the distant fires. It's all behind us now. So passing Angels 24. Set autopilot for Angels 25. Again, let's call the AWACS.
Magic 1-1, Dodge 3-1, request bogey dope. Dodge 3-1, Magic 1-1.
So here we can see the distance to cover to get back to base. If we cheat a little bit, this guy is at 19,000. This guy is at 24. So our tanker, oops, wrong key. Our tanker is this guy right there. So since he's turning, I'm guessing maybe he's gonna head more or less in that direction. So if we wanted to use like the tanker, we would probably try to head where he's going. Looks like he's in that direction now. So we would head over there to try to meet up with them to get some fuel. For now we still have 8,400, so I don't think it'll be necessary. I still have fuel in the wing tanks. Let's look. I go there. There. Have a message. Spotted unauthorized transport, Angels 25 south of Gaziantep, Dodge 3-1. You may intercept bogey. Could be enemy VIPs. we can see right here, that's where he is. So we'll switch to the AMRAAMs. We'll increase our radar range. Let's head to that direction. 252. Try to play with my brightness in the HUD so I can see a bit better. Okay, there he is, more or less in front of me. So I got him on radar. He's a bogey, it's been confirmed, so let's lock him up. He's a little higher than me, so I'm going to climb a bit. 36 miles. Still master arm on. Now I can burn a little bit of fuel. See, burners on. That's our target. Just for the fun of the video, you get to see what I'm going to shoot down. So I'm now supersonic. We can see the contrail of the plane. We're going to fire a missile at him. Fox 3. Get off the burner. Make a little bit of a cranking maneuver to the left. And then we'll come back towards him just so that we see his contrail a bit better and see what he does. Looks like he's maneuvering. What is our missile doing? Our missile just hit it. Did we kill him? Hey, he's still flying. Gonna switch to the sidewinders. How come is my helmet not working? There it is. Fox 2. I'm gonna finish him off with guns. He's dropped a lot of flares on my Sidewinder and he evaded my radar missiles. I'm gonna shoot guns at him. Guns, guns, guns. And there he breaks apart. Goodbye, VIPs. Alright, so we'll get out of dogfight mode and air-to-air and head back home. Still got plenty of fuel. Gonna give it some afterburner for my turn. And boom, on the ground right there. Okay.
1-1, Dodge 3-1, request bogey dope. Dodge 3-1, Magic 1-1, clean.
Got an indication of a Patriot there, and that's I think at the other base in Turkey at this location here in Incirlik. Yeah, that's the Patriot site. At Gaziantep we have a Hawk site, I think, right here. Alright, so autopilot off. We're gonna dive towards final. Try not to go supersonic. There might be some towns and inhabited areas around here.
Magic 1-1, passing waypoint 327,000.
And then our airfield is somewhere around there. I'm gonna keep the tanks, save some taxpayers' money. Kinda like to practice landing with them too. It's like a little bit of weight. You can see the wind is coming from that direction since the HUD is moved a little bit to the right side. It's not a ton of wind though. Okay, so now I should have the airfield more or less in sight. Ah, there it is. I wasn't looking in the right direction. So that's our airfield right there. And so we'll switch to the final waypoint. Get the air brakes out. Use a little bit of aerodynamic braking. What I like about Gaziantep is that it's fairly close to the action for a lot of the types of targets I like to go hit, so it's interesting. Makes it worthwhile to make a template for it. And now our gear is going to come down. I like to raise the seat up a little bit for landing. Right now I'm making the plane drop a little bit so that I'll be able to have a nicer angle. I will need to give it a little bit of power. And we'll get our feet on the pedals for the rudders. It's nice to get those outside views, but still have to fly this thing.
Magic 1-1, passing waypoint 4 at 27,000.
And now we can get the nose wheel steering. We'll exit the runway. Nose wheel steering wasn't engaged. See the Spanish C-130 and the Spanish F-18s Hornets. I put those nice little shelters here. Just for fun, since this is the third plane in the group of planes I had, I'm gonna go park it in shelter number 3. Oh, and we can see there are some patrolling soldiers there. Hello, soldiers. You can see these are numbered, so we'll go to number 3. This is like a civilian airfield, more or less, usually, so this makes it look a little bit more military. And as one of my wingmen pointed out, it's kind of nice to have these provide a little bit of shade in this hot environment. And so we'll do our lazy shutdown, maybe ask the ground crew to put the wheel chocks.
Chief, place the wheel chocks. Copy. Wheel chocks are now in place.
Wheel chocks are in place. Plane will be turned off. There we go. Now, through the magic of DCS, we're going to switch to plane 831 as an F-16, and we'll do his mission, which is more of a conventional strike against buildings. So we'll see how that's going to look. So he's right here. I think he's in shelter number 1 there. That's where I had this plane start. And so similar to the other one, although this one has GBU-38s and less sophisticated sidewinders, just to give a little challenge to the guy flying it. And he's got the extra fuel tank in the center. So I think I'll change my extra fuel tank for an ECM pod. the rest looks good to me. So
Request rearming.
while they do that, I'm gonna check things here. This looks good. I need to turn this on. This I usually set to manual on program 1 when I've got ACM on the plane. Right now we don't need to have master arm on. I'm gonna power this here, which will give me the power to the targeting pod. For the weapons, we need to power them on.
Rearming complete.
Oh, I did it a bit too quickly. Sometimes I change the impact angle, but since we're hitting buildings, I don't know that it's that important for this, so we'll leave it as is. For air-to-air, I'll do like I did with the other plane. I'll put my sidewinders in bore sight. Now these don't maneuver like the X version, but they still do a pretty good job. So if we encounter anything, we'll be able to do something out of it. So now we're back to nav mode. We'll put the nose wheel steering on. We'll turn the helmet mounted display. We don't have to play with brightness because it's a little bit later, so the sun is a bit higher up. We've got a bit more light. It's taxi. Now the reason why this plane was in the shelter, and the plane that I flew tonight was also in the shelter next to this one, and the other one was at the other end of the runway, since he was taking out the MANPADS defenses, I wanted him to take off faster than we did, and he had like at least a good 10-mile lead on us, so that when we got to our targets, we didn't really have to worry too much about the MANPADS that he took out. This is one of the easier missions that I've built. Sometimes when the missions are a little bit harder, I'll have a seed flight go first, then maybe some of the escort flights if there's a lot of air-to-air, and can have the strike package go after that. Depends how many people you have flying with you. You can put AI, but in terms of human pilots, I usually have the 2 guys who fly with me, so try to give us different roles, different jobs, but that's about it. This is my little refueling station or rearming station. If you just want to come back, land, get rearmed quickly, and get going fast. Now speaking of going fast, since we've already taken out the defenses, I don't have to make this take more time than it needs to take, so I'll just take this taxiway and cut short a bit. There's the patrolling helicopter again. So we'll make it a bit of a quicker takeoff. We don't need all that long runway, do we? Well, we do have fuel tanks, but we're not super heavy. Let's go. Airborne, gear up. Gonna gather some speed. And we're gonna do like we did earlier. We're gonna turn around and head for our first waypoint. Climb to Angels 27. once we're in flight, we should be on steady. Actually, we should be on steady when taking off. Now that we have a decent amount of speed, get off the afterburners. Interesting little views for maybe screenshots like this. Or does it look better the other way? I don't know. Something like this might look good. Usually like to test my countermeasures. I didn't turn the ECM on here. I do have my pod, yes. Didn't check when they rearmed if it was really there. And so yeah, let's test ECM. It's on, it's off, it works. Okay. I'll dive just a little bit to give myself a little bit of speed. And now I guess it's time to switch to waypoint 2. And what's going to be different with this plane is that at the IP, I'll want to dive below the clouds so that I can actually use my targeting point, the targeting pod to see the different spots on the ground. And if I'm above the clouds, it's going to be harder to do it once we get through a cloud. There isn't that much cloud cover, but it's usually there when you don't want it to be. So since the MANPADS danger has been eliminated, we're less afraid to fly lower. Still have the AAA to contend it with, but it's not as bad. So yeah, 30 miles. I think I'll dive towards that cloud. It'll give me speed, and it will also help me to see the targets when I switch air to ground. Let's prepare things ahead of time here like we did earlier. Put our targeting pod. It says off. I do have my targeting pod. It's powered on. Why does it say off? That's a first. I do have TGP selected. This I know I don't have. This seems to work. This says off. The switch is on. That will be a problem. If I turn master arm, does it change anything? Is that a new bug with the new patch that came out today? I didn't have any trouble in the previous flight. Let's turn lights off. Go below the clouds. I still have a bit of time, so let's try something. Not necessarily recommended, but we'll do that. Now if I do that, it's still off. Might have to change planes. If I don't have a targeting pod, I can't do this mission properly. Let's now it says not timed out. Okay, so it's better than nothing. What I'll do is I'll change my heading like that and go 90 degrees from my flight plan while it warms up. It's just like your home computer. Sometimes you just need to reboot it. Figured it couldn't be a bug with the targeting pod because in the previous flight, same aircraft, well, not same aircraft number, but same aircraft type, I had a targeting pod. So I don't know if it had to do with the fact that I asked for a new weapon in the ECM pod. But now we have to wait for it to get timed out and become our targeting method. Sorry, I had to play with my headset a bit. So I'm gonna stay in the area around the IP here because I don't have a it's getting there. Okay, let's turn around. Go looking for targets. Okay, now we get an image. It feels much more secure to go attack a target when you're gonna be able to see it. I'm looking ahead. You see there's this little cloud there that I'm gonna try to bypass. I think if we get at about 15,000 feet, we should be below the cloud cover. Let's zoom in a bit on this. This looks like a building right there. I'm gonna put a point track on it. Okay, this is zoom out, this is zoom in. Staying a little bit higher than the cloud. I'm going to get below the cloud cover just when I get to the target area so that I don't expose myself if there's AAA down here. Don't want to get too close to it. One way to make sure they're not a threat is to change directions once in a while. It helps. So yeah, this is definitely our weapons production building. We see a bunch of trucks parked next to it. That's what the briefing says. It's the one we're looking for. This first one is pretty easy to find because the waypoint is right on it. The next one probably won't be as easy. And as you can see, 2 bombs here, 2 bombs there, so I'll probably drop 2 on each target. So now we're just getting in range for the bombs. I'll just make sure I'm below the clouds. Let's say at 14,000 feet. I'm gonna keep a good high speed to give momentum to the bombs. Altitude hold on. And now we can say, well, okay, let's put first bomb at this position. And bombs away. And second bomb, maybe closer to these trucks. Bombs away. So now I've got 1 bomb gone there, 1 bomb gone there. Let's head north. That's our egress direction. And then we'll see what happens with those targets. Can see them visually like that, and we can see on the targeting pod. In fact, I'm gonna zoom out a bit like this, help us see a bit better what goes on. This is the front seat here. Want to make sure the targeting pod can still see it, so I'm gonna make a bit of a turn adjustment there. Should hit pretty soon. There we go. Kaboom. Trucks on fire. Building on fire. I'm going to switch waypoint. And that's going to put it close to my other building. But where's the other building? There's people running there. Let's put it on infrared. Yeah, they're running to that building. And that's the building with the vehicles. So I guess now we can just head for it. Get a good angle on it. Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll head a bit further north just to give us an interesting angle. Make sure it's the right building. Yeah, it is. And so I can position this close to the base of the building, close to those trucks. Come back in. That's where the square is. We're gonna go drop the bombs. Oh, it moved. We lost our target, and probably I did something with the targeting pod that it didn't like. So we're gonna have to do another pass. Let's head north again. Maybe all those crazy turns got the gimbals on the camera to not like what I was doing. I'm going to do a cursor 0. It's going to return back to the position of waypoint 4. If I get out of air to ground, we'll see how far I am. I'm 7 miles. So in this plane, the targeting pod is on the right, so I'll make it right turn. Myself a little bit of an offset, not too much. Let's go back air to ground, and now we can see the area. There's a truck there, and these are our guys with the building with the trucks. I'll target this building first, and maybe I'll come back for the technical that we saw. So we're in range, bombs away, and then let's zoom out and find that technical. There we go, and bombs away. So we're out of bombs. Going back to Cat 1. Make it turn in that direction. Then we're almost above them. So let's watch what happens in that area here. Technical's been hit. Building's been hit. Woohoo! Can we see what it looks like on the ground? I don't want to crash my plane as I do all that. No, there's nothing left there. Okay. I guess I killed everything, so I can't have a visual of anything close by. So let's head back home. I'm going to try to give you a visual of what we were looking for. So right now my plane is heading roughly towards the base. There we go. And now let's go back to F10. Let's get those maybe one of these trucks. And from here we can see that's the first building we destroyed, and that's the last target we hit. That building is gone. The technical that we saw is gone. So we did a pretty good job there. So how are we doing on fuel? We're at 5,000. I'm gonna climb a little bit just to help save fuel, because I've been going at 100% throttle for a good while. I know I've got plenty to get back home, and I also have refueler. Angels 25 should be good. Turn the autopilot back to altitude hold. Have that indication of a Patriot battery. That's one at Incirlik. Whichever way you pronounce that. Incirlik. Same for Gaziantep, whatever. That's our base though. That's where we're going. It's fun to just enjoy the scenery once in a while. Let's talk to the AWACS.
Magic 1-1, Chevy 2-1, request bogey dope.
So that guy there at Angels 24, I guess that's our refueler if we need him. Looks like we have contact there. Could be one of those new false contacts they put on our radars. I don't see anything here on the... If you're wondering why there's a 4 on that plane, that's because in the mission editor I put the AWACS as part of my data link, and so what he sees I see. It's like he's part of my flight group. He's part of the 4 planes that can feed me information. He's number 4. Oh, look, a dam.
Magic 1-1. Chevy 2-1. Request bogey dope. Chevy 2-1. Magic 1-1. Clean.
And so now we're going to start heading down towards the base. I was hoping to get a little bit more action on the return flights. I think in my triggers there's supposed to be a MiG-29 that shows up, but he never showed up, so maybe he just stayed in Syria. After all, we killed a transport earlier, maybe got them flustered and they didn't want to take off. So I'm going to slow down because I'm supersonic at this time. I want to go supersonic on top of civilian areas because they'll hear a big bang that can break a few windows. In a computer game it's less of an issue, but in real life I'm pretty sure the pilots would get a talking to from the officers at the base if they start breaking civilian houses' windows. Hey, is that another dam? Of course it is. Air brakes coming out. Switching to final for the runway. 7 miles from waypoint 7. Do I get bonus points for saying that? I don't know.
Altitude.
So we're gonna put our feet on the rudder pedals. We're gonna raise the seat just a little bit. Speed is coming below 250. Let's get the gear coming down. Symbology is changing.
Magic 1-1, passing waypoint 2 is 27,000.
We can see the C-17 at the far end of the runway. He sort of stands out a little bit with the rests. I'm gonna try to make it a nice Air Force landing, nice and soft. Going a bit long, no, trying to be too soft. Touchdown. Nose wheel steering is back on. Pump the brakes a little bit. I guess we could probably just turn around right here. When you're that close, why not? Sorry, Tower, both times I landed I forgot to call you before doing so, but it's a very stealthy secret mission. We don't talk. Excuses, excuses. And this time we'll take shelter number 2. We started in number 1, and earlier we had the plane that we parked in 3, so we'll just take number 2. How's that look? Looks alright, but that looks silly, so let's close these and maybe give it a foot or two. There you go.
Chief, place the wheel chocks. Copy. Wheel chocks are now in place.
Wheel chocks in place. Put the parking brake, and then we'll do our lazy shutdown. See what it looks like in here. it goes. And I guess that's a wrap. Mission accomplished. I hope you enjoyed.